GTO Wizard has just added a new tool to their interface, the EV comparison feature. Now, pros have been using EV comparison for years now, but amateurs weren't really aware of this. Let me demonstrate how this powerful tool works and how you can use it to maximize your game. So you're playing a cash game. The cutoff opens and it folds to you in the big blind. Now here we can see big blind's defense. Some hands are 3-betting in red, some hands are calling in green, some hands are folding in blue. This new feature is called Compare EV, and it's a powerful little tool that, as I said, pros have been using for years. But it was only recently added to GTO Wizard, and so most of the public is blissfully unaware of this powerful little tool. Let me show you how it works. So under the strategy dropdown, you can click Compare EV. This is going to open a pop-up. Choose two actions to compare. So I'm going to compare the expected value of calling against the expected value of folding. Hands in green are higher EV calls than folds. Hands in red are lower EV calls than folds. And hands in white, these 9-8 offsuits, these ace-5 offsuits, these 9-5 suited hands, these are the hands that are close. This sculpts your threshold hands, your continuation range, right? If you only remembered these very, very close marginal hands, you'd be able to continue everything better than that and already get a pretty strong preflop strategy. Now, on top of that, these threshold hands should be the first to adapt against different opponent types. So, for example, if you know that you have a hand that's very close to the line between calling and folding, then you can adapt against an opponent who's too tight or too wide. But we don't just have to compare calling and folding. We can compare, for example, the expected value of raising against the expected value of calling. And here, what do we see? Most hands are in white, so most hands are indifferent between raising and calling. However, some hands, like jacks plus and ace-queen suited, these hands are strictly higher EV as a 3-bet. So we can see here, the expected value of 3-betting jacks is 3.12 big blinds. Calling is 2.9. Aces is a more extreme example. And so these are the only hands that strictly do better when 3-betting. Many other hands, which may surprise you, are actually very close. So king-queen suited is indifferent between 3-betting and calling. Ace-queen offsuit, indifferent. Ace-jack suited, indifferent. Ace-5 suited, indifferent. What this means is they have the same EV whether or not they call or raise. And so you can use this feature to already identify at a glance which hands in your range are pure 3-bets and which hands should decide. Okay, let's take a look at a post-flop spot so you can see more about how this works. I'll go back to the strategy and let's select some flop. How about, let's say Jack 7-6 rainbow. Okay, big blind checks to the aggressor. And here we can see cutoff strategy. They're mixing between many different sizes here. We'll put on a half pot bet, action back on big blind. So we'll apply the same process. First of all, we'll open up the strategy dropdown and select Compare EV. Now I'm going to compare the expected value of calling against folding. And this again tells me which hands strictly prefer to continue rather than fold. Using this filters tab, I can then get a better idea. So, for example, third pair plus, all of these made hands, they're not going to fold to a half pot bet. Not yet anyway. It's too early to fold these hands. A hand like third pair, however, pocket pairs underneath the bottom card, these hands are already very close, and you can consider starting to fold some of these hands immediately because they're already getting dicey. Where it really starts to get dicey, though, are these ace high, king high, no made hands without a draw. These hands, mostly red, indicating that calling is just going to be strictly lower EV than folding. These hands are give-ups, with the exception of some very strong hands with 2 overcards, like ace-queen offsuit, for example. Okay, now let's compare the expected value of raising against the expected value of folding. So I can choose any size I like. I'll go with the half pot bet. And here's the expected value of folding. And again, we can see that most hands which would have continued anyway would rather continue as a raise rather than folding. So even if they don't want to raise, it would be better than to give up completely. We can also use this best action feature. So the best action feature asks, what is the expected value of this action compared to the best possible action we could take? So none of our hands are going to be green here. The best we can hope for is white, because white indicates that the action we've chosen, check raising half the pot, is at least as good as the best action we could have taken. So it's either going to be white, meaning the same EV, or red, meaning lower EV. So a hand in red here, for example, queen deuce, strictly worse raising compared to folding. So let's go on with the example. I'm going to change it back to the strategy. We'll say big blind calls, and we're going to put, let's go with a king of clubs on the turn. Big blind will check to the aggressor, and here we can see that cutoff really likes this overbet size on this Broadway king. So we're going to, first of all, use the compare EV feature, and we're going to see which hands prefer betting compared to checking. Now I'm going to group these bet sizes together using this dropdown, or just press S, and we'll compare the expected value of betting against checking. We can already see immediately which hands are strictly higher EV as a bet. Things like sets, two pair, and ace-ace. What about checking? Well, the only hands that are strictly better as checks rather than bets are pocket pairs immediately beneath the jack. Tens, nines, eights. These hands are your definition of your made showdown value hands that do not want to inflate the pot. They just want to make it to showdown. If we put on some bet size here, so we'll go back to the strategy, and here we'll put in some over bets. Let's take a look. All right, we'll say big blind calls, put on a random river, queen of clubs, okay, check. Action on cutoff, we're going to have them put all the money in, all the money. And here we can already see which hands are very close. And using this compare EV feature, we can see which hands are close and which hands are folds. And we'll see there's not a whole lot of green here. Only king queen is even marginally better, calling rather than folding. Most hands, well, not that good. We don't really have a whole lot of straights here, so most of our range is right on the line between calling and folding. Many hands in red indicating these are just pure folds. Anyway, guys, that's the compare EV feature. Very powerful for sculpting your strategy, finding your continuation range, and comparing the expected value between two actions. Now, the good news is, if you're not a cash player, you can apply this to any format, whether you're an MTT specialist, a PKO aficionado, a spin and go grinder, or heads up sit and go specialist. Doesn't matter. If we have solutions for it, you can use this feature. So give it a try. Let us know what you think in the comments down below. And if you have any questions about it, please join our Discord, link in the description. That's all for now. Happy grinding.